Someone needs to tell President Obama to get out here because his base is getting out ahead of him. And you know what happens when you lose your base? You lose elections. And I try to tell them over and over again that teachers are your base. And when you alienate teachers and you support the mass firing of teachers in Central Falls, it's going to be hard to get people to vote for you. Now I say that as someone who actually loves and admires his president. But it is getting harder and harder to say anything nice about his education policies. But they look more and more like his defense policies in Afghanistan. You know, they promised to change the direction, and instead we got acceleration. They promised to change the direction in education, we get more of the same. And I've been trying to say for a while now, when you end up with, after almost 11 years of No Child Left Behind, dropout rates of 50% and higher in almost every major city, how much of a sign do you need to know this is not working? Not working. But somehow they're not hearing it. They're not hearing it because they're listening to somebody else. Somebody with a lot of money out there named Bill Gates. And Bill Gates is telling them something else. And so we need to make sure they hear from the base. I'm a little nostalgic today because the last time I marched in Washington was against apartheid and against Reagan's policies in South Africa, because at that time they were still doing constructive engagement with apartheid, which meant dancing with the apartheid regime. These politics are a little more complicated because now we have Democrats and Republicans who united together around No Child Left Behind. Let's face it. It was George Miller, a very good congressman on other issues, who worked with President Bush and Ted Kennedy, may he rest in peace, to bring us No Child Left Behind. And I was on a panel with Congressman Miller this week, and I tried to say, listen, all the international indicators tell us we're falling further and further behind. And it's because we are using testing in the most distorted way ever imagined. We're using testing to rank kids and to now judge teachers and schools instead of to help kids. You know, think about how crazy it is. In most states now, we test the kids in the spring and we give the teachers the results in the fall when they no longer have the students. Now, how smart is that? If you were going to use the assessment to actually make sure that kids get what they need, why would you do that? Well, that's what happens when education policy is being set, not by educators, but by bankers and CEOs and lawyers. You know, America's a country where those who know the least about education have the most say, and those who know the most have very little say. And that's what we got to change. We got to make sure that we are being heard as educators, that we're influencing the policy debate and changing direction. We have a lot of reason to change direction, but I think at the same time, we should not allow ourselves to be pitted as being for the status quo. Status quo sucks. Too many children not being educated under the status quo. I've been part of a group called the Broader and Bolder Approach that's been advocating a different strategy, a different change of course. We've been saying at the minimum, let's make sure that all children get good health care. Good health care. How come we against that? In fact, that slogan, No Child Left Behind, you know where it came from? It came from the Children's Defense Fund. Right. But when Marian Wright Edelman came up with that slogan, it didn't mean test the kids as frequently as possible. It literally meant make sure they get good health care, good nutrition, because we have too many sick children in America, where we have poverty rates of at least 1 out of 5 children living in families below poverty. So then we also said we need to make sure that children get extended learning opportunities, after school, summer school, because we need more, not less. And we've said that we need to find ways to make sure that communities are engaged and involved, that we need to make sure that there's a sense of ownership, that standards are real, and that we're not using pressure and blame as a strategy to improve our schools. Think about how sick this gets. I was down in Miami. Now, the state of Florida, some of you may know who came up from Florida, has taken accountability to a new level. They put letter grades on schools. They could go to a school with an A all the way down to an F. Now, I would think that if the state of Florida puts an F on your school and still allows the children to go there, the state should be sued, right? But that's what they do now in the name of accountability. So I'm visiting Edison High School in Miami, a triple F school. So I asked the principal, how do you get to be triple F? He said, well, you simply failed the state exam 3 years in a row. I said, well, what happens if you fail again? He said, well, we will fail again because 85% of our children don't speak English. So they will fail this test again. And now the state says they'll take us over. So I said, are you worried about being taken over? He says, not at all. I said, why not? He said, because there's too many schools just like us all over Florida. He said, Florida can't take us over. He said, what's more, do you think the state of Florida would know what to do if they got a hold of Edison High School? What is the record of state takeovers around the country? It's one of total abysmal failure. We need a change of course. We need a change of strategy. We need to ask ourselves, are we doing what it takes to ensure that we are educating all of our children? This is within our reach. There are schools right now in America that are showing us that under the right conditions, we can educate all kinds of kids. They are showing us right now the problem is not the kids. The problem is the way we treat the kids. The problem is our inability to create the conditions that allow all children to work, to learn, and teachers to teach. We've got to insist that we create those schools. The future of this country will be determined by what's happening in our schools. It's that serious. That's what's at stake. That's why we're out here. Thank you.